I'm filming this on Saturday, and we have had nothing planned all weekend. I've spent the morning and much of the afternoon in bed reading, watching TV, binge watching series, relaxing, and I'm gonna do the same thing tomorrow too. Hi BookTube, it's Kim at K Becker's Books, and welcome to my Bookish week as of August 15th, 2020. So I had a meh reading week, and you can tell me if you agree once you've watched what I've got to present to you today. It was all right. It was all right. So let's get going. The very first book I finished this week was Hunger by Roxane Gay. And I did this as a combination of book and audio, not at the same time, but I started listening to it on audio, and if I was in the car, if I was at work, at home, from my earbuds, and then when I had the time and the chance, I would read the text. So it was an interesting and a good combination. When I was listening to the author who reads it herself, it was excellent. When I read it, it was still good, but there were pieces of it that I just did not enjoy. So let me tell you about that. Hunger is subtitled A Memoir of My Body, and Roxane Gay is an author, an essayist, a professor, and this book was written, I think, in 2017, so a few years ago. Trigger warnings for this book for rape and sexual assault. Need to tell you about that right up front. The title is slightly deceiving, but if you've read the book or if you read the book, you'll understand what I mean by that. Roxane Gay in the book details the traumatic gang rape at the age of 12 by a male friend of hers who she thought was a friend, who she thought at the time she was in love with at the age of 12. And he and a group of friends gang raped her in a secluded, broken down shack in the woods near her home. She never told her parents, she never told the authorities, she never told anybody, kept the secret most of her life so far. I believe she's in her 40s at this point. Clearly, that type of trauma led to her splitting her life into the before and the after. And she goes on to detail not only that event, but the aftermath, how she survives, how she moves on, what happens to her in her early teens, and when she goes to college. There's so much to unpack here, and that she works out on the page and that she reveals. And I didn't really look into it, but I'd be interested to know how she did tell her story to her parents and her family. The title and the graphic, this is a graphic of a fork on the cover, is like I think I said this, it's a little misleading because it doesn't discuss just her hunger for food, but her hunger for the best things and the positive things in life. Roxane Gay developed several eating disorders after this event. She made herself as large as she could. At one point in the book, she already discusses this. She weighed around 540 pounds. And she's, since the age of 12 or starting in her teens, she started to put on an enormous amount of weight, and that continued into adulthood. So she does talk about her relationship with food, her relationship with her body in the world, how she navigates the world at the size that she is. But she also gets to the point where she realizes that she needs and deserves positivity, love, understanding, and towards the end of the book, that's where she's at. And her story is fascinating. I really appreciated her writing and reading her story, listening to her story. The thing I don't like about Roxane Gay's writing is she inserts very many pop culture references, and she did the same thing in the book Bad Feminist, which I read in June. And I don't like that, and I believe, years from now, the books, and because of all of the references that she puts in there, are going to be very dated, and I just don't enjoy them. So I'm glad I read this. Did not like that portion of the book. I also listened to a short story on audio, and this is John Cheever's The Swimmer. The Swimmer was written in 1964 in the New Yorker. It was also collected in a collection of short stories called The Brigadier and the Golf Widow, and then it was collected in the Stories of John Cheever collection, which I actually have on my bookshelf. So The Swimmer is the story of Ned, or Neddy Merrill. He is an upper middle class, approaching middle-ish age, well-off man who is at a house party in the warm weather in somebody's backyard, and they are all heavily drinking, also coming down off of a night of drinking. He decides he's going to get home by swimming through everybody's pools, all of the neighbors' pools, to get to his house, and he names that pool journey Lucinda's River after his wife Lucinda. So he starts this journey of journeying home through people's swimming pools. At first he has plenty of energy, he's enjoying himself, he is noticing people's houses and different things that they've acquired, he's talking to people, he's being friendly. The longer he swims, the less energy he has, the more exhaustion he's feeling, the friendliness has left, he's not excited about it, accepting anybody's invitation anymore, and it continues from there. I don't want to spoil what happens when he does get to his home, but there's so many themes in this short story of aging, alcoholism. At first I thought that his journey through the swimming pools had to do with the aging process and his coming to the realization he wasn't young anymore. He wasn't as needed or wanted anymore. Then I thought, especially because of the alcoholism of the author himself, that this had a lot to do with alcoholism and the deterioration of the body and the mind. And along the way, he deals with certain humiliations. And so there's a lot of themes in there about denial, superficiality, coming to accept that your body and your mind are getting older. I didn't enjoy it that much. I listened to it on audio, and John Cheever, the author, narrates it, and I couldn't stand his voice. Just couldn't stand it. What I think I might do is go back and read the text out of the collection that I have. Now, Brian at Bookish does a short story series. I think he does a short story a month. And I think either August or September story is The Swimmer. So I'm going to link his video with that announcement below. But I just didn't enjoy it. The next thing I listened to on audio, which was weird for me because I don't like audio, was a speech narrated by the author Jesmyn Ward, and it is Navigate Your Stars. She narrated this for the Tulane University 2018 commencement speech. And she lives in Mississippi. She is an associate professor of creative writing at Tulane University. Jesmyn Ward is the author of Sing Unburied Sing, Men We Reaped. She edits a short story collection. There's a couple other books that I don't remember the titles of off the top of my head, but I loved Sing Unburied Sing and think she's an incredibly talented writer. The speech is written, it's very short. It's about half an hour to listen to on audio. It's written to the college graduates, and in it she discusses the importance and the value of education and what that will bring you in your life. She talks about the value of hard work. She talks about her status as a member of her family to be the first one to go to college, graduate from college, what her grandmother had to do, how many jobs that she had to hold, how she supported her family, how Ward's parents supported themselves, the value that they put on her education, hard work, how she felt about, she talks about herself and how insecure she was along the way, how writing and submitting was not easy. She talks about feeling like a fraud and just feeling that anxiety. It's an excellent speech, and it was made into a physical book that would make a great graduation present, even for high school graduates, not just college graduates. So I really loved listening to that. And the other novel that I finished last week is Elena Ferrante's The Days of Abandonment. And this I read for Women in Translation month for August. this is funny because we picked this for my in real life book group for the Critical Chicks several years ago, and I thought it was trash, and I didn't finish it, couldn't stand it, just tossed it. And for whatever reason, I think it was because it's a translated novel. It's translated from the Italian by Anne Goldstein, and I still owned it in this, also in this Europa edition, which I love. I love the Europa books. So I figured, you know what? I'm going to try it again. I don't think I gave it a good enough shot. And this time I did enjoy it. I didn't think it was great. I think I gave it 3 stars. But I enjoyed the reading process. It is the story of our protagonist, Olga, and her husband, Mario, has left her after 14, 15 years of marriage. They have 2 young children, 11 and 7, and this details just the shock of her husband leaving her out of the blue. She did not see it coming. They didn't have that type of marriage where she would have known this was ever going to happen. He basically drops it on her and leaves. So it details the days of her marital abandonment, how she kind of declines into rage and depression and misery. What happens to her life, the numbness that she exists in as she walks through or kind of just rambles and ambles through her life in these days. It discusses what happens to her relationship with her children. And along the way, it's probably set over 5 or 6 months. Along the way, you finally see her start to transition out of that period of blackness and misery into the things that she's learned and grown into, and how she starts to heal and recover. The book is not perfect. I wouldn't call it a great book. The writing is a little off. It could have been the translation. It's a very raw, sexually explicit, miserable book. There's a lot of passion and anger, bitterness. However, being married as long as I've been married and dealing with some stuff that weren't so perfect in marriage and knowing what a long marriage entails, I could relate to quite a bit of it. And the Olga is saying out loud in the narrative things that wives and mothers wouldn't normally announce out loud because they would be unacceptable. But we all know we have some dark thoughts. It comes with the job, and there's certain relatable pieces to this. But it was good. I'm glad I reread it. Now I'm done. Not gonna try it again. It's all done. What am I currently reading? I'm still reading How Race is Lived in America by the New York Times. Long form articles talking about race in America. This one I might put aside for a little bit, just on hold. I will finish it. But I've got too many other things going on, and I'm starting to feel overwhelmed. I'm still reading Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell with Freddie from Sluggish Reader for our buddy read. We'll probably finish that mid to late September. I am still and will be reading These Truths, the year-long readathon with Karen Evans, These Truths by Jill Lepore. I am currently reading Paris Trout by Pete Dexter for the Barter Hordes Book Club with Robert on Voxer. I think I'm about 60 pages in, and it's not a very long book. It's maybe a little over 300 pages. I'm still deciding if I like this or not, and if I'm going to continue. So I'm going to get to page 100 and see how that goes. And for my in real life book group with the Critical Chicks, we're reading Deacon King Kong by James McBride. We're going to discuss this over Zoom on the 19th, and I am on page 91. I got to start reading, people. And thank goodness I got nothing planned for tomorrow either. Let's see. I also picked up a couple books last week. Not going to include them here right now. But I am, and by thrifting and books at a discount, I got some great book mail. If you are on Instagram and you follow my channel, then you'll see a picture of what I got in my book mail. I did some actual in-person shopping as well. But I am really trying to cut down on my book buying, and embarrassingly enough, I think I might have mentioned this in another video. I have my Bookish notebook right here when I write notes and all kinds of bookish stuff, And I wrote down all of my book orders that I did online. This is version 1. And what I've been doing, because I can't keep track in my head anymore, it is so embarrassing. This is version 2 that I've kind of edited as I've received books and as I get them in the mail from many different sources. I line through them that yes, I have received them. And I'm trying to be very conscious of that because I have a problem, people, and I need an intervention. I need a bookish intervention. So I'm trying very hard to be very aware of that. I am getting really overwhelmed with the number of books I have going. I'm not a very good polygamous reader, and I'm trying to get to the point where I've started to finish this pile that I keep on my nightstand. I'm losing space on my nightstand, but I'm trying very hard to finish things so that I can get to the point where I only have one. I will have these truths going till next year, so that'll always be there. But then I only want to have 1, maybe 2 other books going at the same time. I'm getting there. Yeah, and I do have a couple more buddy reads coming up in the next few months. So we'll see how that goes. So actually, as I think about it, I'm failing. It's an epic fail on not being overwhelmed with reading. Whatever. I'll figure it out. So if you have a comment on anything I discussed so far, write it to me down below. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I'd love it if you did that now. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.